This is A View from the Bunker. Now, here's Derek Gilbert.
The Amorites and the Canaanites couldn't destroy the site, but the Palestinians are now trying to do the job 3,400 years later. Welcome to A View from the Bunker. I'm Derek Gilbert, talking about Joshua's altar. We'll get to the threat to the site and what you can do to help in just a minute. First, if you would, take a moment, make a note, and if you're watching on YouTube, we appreciate you subscribing and sharing with your friends, clicking the button for notifications, a little bell there. But then please take a moment to guarantee that we never get canceled. Our free app will do just that. All of our content comes straight to you from our servers to you. We will not be canceled from our app. Not only does it include all of our content, exclusive content, online only, from excerpted from our books, and also a messaging area where you can join in a community of like-minded believers. All of this in the confines of your app, whether it's iOS, Android, Amazon Kindle Fire. We've got apps that work for all of those devices, and you'll find links to the app stores for the device that you have at gilberthouse.org/app. You'll also find it at VFTB.net. We were blessed back in 2019 to take a trip to the site of Joshua's altar. We had planned to go again in March of this year, but the IDF had to back out on the day of our tour. We instead went across the valley to Mount Kavir, which is the site of the Oak of Moreh, where God appeared to Abraham and promised him the land. So we were able to look down at the site of Joshua's altar from the site across the valley that was probably the site of the historic Mount Gerizim. This is not the Mount Gerizim of today, where there is a small Samaritan community. Mount Gerizim being the mountain that was sacred to the Samaritans, because that was a mountain considered sacred in the ancient world. But Mount Ebal, where Joshua built his altar, was sacred to the Jews. And then at some point during the period of the Judges, the Jews moved the spiritual center of their people to the site of Shiloh. Joshua's altar was discovered about 40 years ago. And we have been, we were blessed to take a group there back in 2019. It is our plan and our prayer that we can successfully do so in 2024. There is a question, however. For the second time in less than 3 years, the Palestinian Authority has apparently given the green light to construction work on the site of Joshua's altar. This may seem shocking to you, because here you've got an archaeological site that even the scholars who disagree that this was the actual location where Joshua built his altar and said those immortal words, "As for me and my house, we will serve the Lord," they do concede that, yes, it is a cultic site that dates to the early Iron Age, which is exactly the time period when Joshua and the Israelites were moving into the land of Canaan. Joining us is the gentleman who's very graciously made it possible for Sharon and me and many of you to visit that site and many historic sites around Israel. He is the CEO of Lipkin Tours, the host and producer of the Hidden Israel series of DVDs, and a man I'm proud to call my friend. We welcome to the program Aaron Lipkin.
Shalom, an honor to be with you, and would love to share what's going on here in Israel.
This was really startling, especially considering just a couple of years ago, we talked about the destruction of the footprint-shaped enclosure, or at least the beginnings of it. It was dismantled, or at least partially dismantled, but it was stopped before the border around the site of Joshua's altar could be completely dismantled. But the purpose of this was to crush up the rocks around the site to create a road. So I would have thought after that wake-up call, the Netanyahu administration, the Israeli government in general, would pay attention to this site and try to protect it. What is going on there now on that site?
Well, we discovered this accidentally 2 weeks ago. The Jewish people read Deuteronomy 27 in synagogues as part of the weekly reading in synagogue, and I decided that week to go with my father, Avi Lipkin, who many of our viewers know, and we wanted to take a Torah scroll and read Deuteronomy 27 at the site that it's talking about. And then after my father finished reading, I read Joshua 8, which is the implementation of the building of the altar on Mount Ebal. And as we approached the site, I suddenly see this white road that I haven't seen before, adjacent to the footprint enclosure. Now, I'm there almost on a weekly basis, and so when I see this, I immediately noticed the difference. We took a video of this, and I sent it to the authorities, and the next day, they stopped a Palestinian bulldozer that was continuing the construction as part of plans to build a village on top of Joshua's altar compound. And so, we accidentally found it and prevented it that week. And, you mentioned the earlier attempts of destruction at the site, and I want to differentiate between those attempts and the one we just encountered, because in the past I've seen graffiti, Arabic graffiti on the altar. I've seen tires that were burned inside the altar by Palestinians. This is, accidental vandalism by probably young people. A case with the construction worker that took stones from the wall of the compound to make rubble for the nearby road is also could be claimed as accidental, because that constructor didn't know that wall was part of the archaeological compound. In this case, we're talking about something else. We're talking about an intentional plan by the Palestinian Authority to totally destroy the compound, to prevent Christian and Jewish tourists from visiting one of the most important biblical sites in the land of Israel. And this is intentional. You cannot claim that it's accidental. And not only is it intentional, it's organized by the Palestinian Authority. It's organized by the municipality of the nearby village. So what we have here is a different case, and that's why Israel decided to deal with this differently than the last cases.
So essentially, the Palestinian village, presumably with the permission of the Palestinian Authority, was in the process of building a housing development, or what we in the U.S. might call a subdivision, right there on the site of the ruins of Joshua's altar.
Exactly, and we have to understand, it's like suddenly, it's like San Antonio suddenly decides to build a village over the Alamo.
That's exactly what I was thinking. Exactly what I was thinking.
It's ridiculous, and in the case of the Alamo, you're talking about a site that is hundreds of years old. Joshua's altar is 3,400 years old, and is a biblical site. It's a site that was built by the Israelites as the worship site, and there's no reason whatsoever to build on top of it or around it. Quite the opposite. The area should be an archaeological park that no one can get access to unless they pay money and go through the merch store to see the site. This is how important the site is, and what we see is a site that is now being intentionally targeted by the Palestinian Authority. And I have to say, it's not just the Palestinian Authority. There are organizations that are pushing the Palestinian Authority as part of a bigger initiative to erase archaeological sites that have potential of proving the connection between the Jewish people and the land of Israel. The Palestinian Authority just submitted a list of, I believe, 15 archaeological sites in Israel to announce that they are Palestinian heritage sites. Places like Jericho, places like Sebastia, or the capital of the Northern Israelite Kingdom, and several others. So this is part of a whole attempt to delete the Bible, to delete any connection that Jews and Christians have to these sites.
We in America don't have a real clear understanding, I know, speaking for myself anyway, of how administration is divided in Israel between the government in Jerusalem and the Palestinian Authority. What's the difference between these areas, and how is it possible that the Palestinians can actually start a project like this without the Israeli government knowing about it?
The area was liberated by Israel in 1967 during the Six-Day War as part of the liberation of Judea and Samaria and East Jerusalem. Jerusalem was united, and Judea and Samaria, and by the way, and East Jerusalem was declared part of Israel. The United Jerusalem is the capital of the State of Israel. Unlike the rest of the areas of Judea and Samaria, which came under military control of Israel. Israel never annexed those areas to the State of Israel. In the 1990s, Israel decided to sign the Oslo agreements with the PLO and Yasser Arafat, thinking that it would lead to peace and quiet. And well, we all know the history. Mm-hmm. Things didn't happen the way they were planned, but part of the Oslo agreements was dividing Judea and Samaria, the biblical heartland of Israel, to three different areas. Area A, under full Palestinian control, military and civilian. Area C, which is under full Israeli control, military and civilian. And Area B is this hybrid between military control of Israel and civilian control of the Palestinian Authority. And the area that Joshua's altar was in was purposely, I have to say this is really troubling, purposely designated to be in Area B, which means that there is an full Israeli military control, but the civilian control, the archaeological responsibility over the site belongs to the Palestinian Authority. We don't have, I would say, facts to prove it, but from, I would say, talks among people who are activists at Joshua's altar, there is this knowledge of a certain archaeologist in the Israeli army that made sure that the altar will not fall under full Israeli control. They wanted to erase the site from archaeology. They wanted to prevent Jews. Again, this is an archaeologist, an Israeli Jewish archaeologist in the Israeli army that opposed Adam Zertal, the discoverer of Joshua's altar, that opposed the fact that the altar might prove the veracity of the historicity of the Bible, and he made sure that the border will exclude the site from full Israeli control. That means that the site was basically deserted because Israel is not in charge of the site, and on the other hand, the Palestinian Authority doesn't care about it or is not permitted to reach it or take care of it because it's a biblical site. So the area basically froze for 30, 40 years, and now what we're seeing in the last few years is that there is a change, and I believe that one of the reasons for that change is the recent discovery that we've made of the cursed tablet that was found there. The site suddenly surfaced, and it surfaced in a way that no one predicted. Finding an ancient Hebrew inscription with the name of the Hebrew God on it proves without any doubt that the site was Israelite. And obviously this is a thorn in the eyes of the Palestinians. It's a thorn in the eyes of atheists, of left-wing progressive organizations that want to rip Judea and Samaria from its Jewish connection. And this is the reason why we're seeing these recent attempts to destroy the site.
This is stunning to me. As we've discussed before, and as longtime viewers would know, Adam Zertal, the late Israeli archaeologist who was led out of atheism by the evidence that he discovered, the facts on the ground, as it were, including discovering the site of Joshua's altar. This found around 1980, so more than 40 years ago, but that predates the Oslo Accords. And then an archaeologist with some influence inside the Israeli army influencing the decision on where to designate the border of Area B and Area C so that Joshua's altar would fall into this sort of no man's land. And now it's becoming a point of contention between, those who want to see the biblical history preserved and those who would like to see it erased. Aaron, what can people do? I know you've set up an online petition. What can people do here in the United States to try to raise awareness of this and protect that site?
First of all, we have a website or URL. It's called altarofjoshua.com. And I highly recommend visiting that portal and clicking on that picture there saying Saving Joshua's Altar. What we're trying to do is the following things. First of all, I'm asking all our viewers to pray for protection over the site. I've been asking this for the past 2 weeks. And I have to say that it's working. Tomorrow, I was invited to the Israeli parliament, to the Knesset. There's going to be a parliamentary committee that's going to be talking about the destruction of Joshua's altar. And it seems like the prayers are helping. Things are moving, and we're hoping to see major changes. Some of them I can speak about, some I can't, and I will mention them later on. The second thing that I'm asking our viewers to do, aside from praying, is to reach out to your senators, to your congressmen, and write to them that you heard that biblical sites in Israel are in danger by the Palestinians, that you've heard that Joshua's altar was damaged and is in danger of being totally destroyed, and that you're asking your senators and congressmen to reach out to, and listen to this, Netanyahu. Benjamin Netanyahu is the key here. He is the one that will be able to change the site from Area B to Area C, to make it under full Israeli control, both militarily but also civilian and archaeologically. So reach out to your senators and your congressmen. If you are a pastor or a rabbi, please join our petition. The link for that petition is on that website that I said earlier, altarofjoshua.com. And if you're also able to write directly to Netanyahu and also to the Minister of Defense, Yoav Gallant, their emails are on that website that I just referred to, altarofjoshua.com. Write them in personal emails. Tell them that you are a concerned Christian who feels very close to Israel, very close to the biblical sites, and you're concerned about what's happening, and you're asking Israel to step up, take control over the site, and declare it a national heritage Hebrew or Jewish site. This is the only way to solve the problem permanently. Otherwise, the short-term solutions that we have, occasional patrols, cameras that will be stationed in different places, will not solve the problem. Our viewers need to understand it takes a Palestinian bulldozer to get to the site and destroy it 3 or 4 minutes. The fastest army patrol that would get there would take at least 15 to 20 minutes to reach the site. So cameras, occasional patrols will not suffice. We need, in the short term, we need a physical Israeli presence at the site 24/7. Nothing else will prevent destruction. And in the long term, it needs to become an archaeological park under full Israeli control.
Aaron, let's change gears here a little bit. I want to shift to a political situation. Benjamin Netanyahu has been under a lot of fire, not just domestically, but from around the world. The United States sticking its nose into Israel's business here, and the Biden administration telling the prime minister what he should be doing, which is, I think, a uniquely American trait, maybe not uniquely American, but we seem to have this idea that we've got the right to tell the rest of the world how to run its business. I'm talking about judicial reform. We saw protests when we were in Israel back in March, although they weren't nearly as intense as people back home were being led to believe. We were getting emails during the tour. Are you okay? We've heard that the parks are closed and the embassy's telling you to leave. And none of that was true. We saw a few people standing at road intersections waving flags, and that was about it. The whole issue of judicial reform is back in the news this week because the Supreme Court in Israel is now taking up the challenge to the reasonableness law passed by the Knesset. What exactly is going on here, and how does this affect the government? How does this affect the people of Israel?
I'll jump back 100 years ago, when Israel, when the state of Israel didn't exist before 1948, but the Zionist movement that wanted to build this land, this state, basically incorporated two camps. One camp was the religious camp, which believed in the prophetic verses, scriptures in the Bible, that the Jewish people are going to be returning from the exiles and establishing a state or sovereignty over the land of Israel as part of a destiny which involves building a temple, the coming of Messiah, and so on and so forth. There's another camp, and that camp I would call the survival camp. And that survival camp is mostly made of Jews who are not religious, actually even I would say atheist. And the reason why they wanted to establish a Jewish state in the land of Israel is because they wanted to survive. They saw the Holocaust, they saw the persecution of Jews in Europe and in other places in the world, and they saw the solution to that persecution as building a state in the land of Israel. So you have these two camps with two different visions, two different goals, joining together in order to build the state of Israel. Now, the state of Israel was established in 1948, and what you're seeing now is these two camps that are suddenly feeling the difference in the vision of each camp. So this is just, the what you said, the reasonably, how do you say it?
Reasonableness is how it's translated into English. Yeah.
I'll get it. One day I'll get it. The reasonableness clause is just a part, is an excuse. It's just part of that big struggle between Zionism of survival and Zionism of destiny. And I believe that the state of Israel was really ruled by Zionists that were part of the survival camp. And what we're seeing now is that demographically, the Zionists of destiny, of Messiah, of temple, are taking are demographically much more, and therefore are winning the elections. They want to take over the country, and the guys, the old rulers of the land of Israel, the state of Israel, are not willing to give up that power. The High Court in Israel is the tool for those old elites to keep control of Israel. So there is, I would say, a struggle between the judicial branch in Israel at the moment and the Knesset, the parliament. Who's going to be ruling over Israel? Who's going to be representing the country? So this is really the story, and there are several debates here in Israel that are connected to it. And I don't know where it's going to lead. I know that demographically, the majority in Israel wants a Jewish state. They want a state that is When I say Jewish state, I mean a state that is connected to its Jewish roots and sources. So the Bible, the biblical sites, the Jewish culture, and on the other side, you have people that are disconnected from their Jewish heritage and sometimes even see it in a negative light. So this is really the struggle today in Israel. And again, I have to say, the majority of the Jewish people in Israel want to continue being a democracy as long as their vote counts at the ballot. And depending on what the High Court in Israel is going to make decisions, that's going to, I would say, influence if people will still continue to respect and count on democracy. And I'm saying this to many of my friends in America, and they're saying sometimes they say we have the same problem in America.
Yes.
We have a democracy, and we have someone we wanted to elect, and you have these forces, this deep state that is trying to prevent democracy and even try to weaken the I would say the way people are trusting the democratic principle. With all the mailing ballots, and what's the point in voting if you're you can harvest ballots. So going back a few steps and looking at the world, not just in Israel, I see a lot of similarities between Israel and America in the sense that there are forces that are trying to hurt the democracy. They're trying to hurt the principle of the decision of the people, and these are elites. These are people in the deep state that are not willing to give up their power. They want to rule. They want the money. They want the control, and that's what we're seeing, not just in the world, but also here in Israel.
This is a really exciting time to be alive. I guess every era throughout history is exciting if you are actually paying attention to what's going on. But I think you're right. There are a lot of parallels with what's going on here in the U.S. We watch a lot of news out of the United Kingdom, and the U.K. is going through similar things where people are wondering how much of a voice they actually have in their government. But at the end of the day, it is the one who spoke it all into existence who will determine what actually happens whenever we get really frustrated with our political leaders. We just return back to Psalm 2 and read where it says, he who sits in the heavens laughs, he holds them in derision. So, the elites who think that they actually run the world believe they're winning, and they don't realize that they're playing the wrong game.
I agree. And I also think that, again, it's hard for me to sometimes detach myself. But when we're looking at the messianic process, I think that what we're seeing in Israel specifically, this move from Zionism of survival to Zionism of destiny, is crucial. This is exactly what we need in order to go forward in the messianic vision of God's kingdom over the world. And part of that is the Jewish people doing their role in the messianic era. And so sometimes we see a crisis, but the crisis is just a stage of development. So I'm optimistic. I hope that out of this, Israel will emerge stronger and more united in our walk with God and prophecy.
Sharon and I have really been blessed to call you and your wife Eddie, your father Avi, your mother Rachel, are friends, and you facilitated the two of us being able to see things that we never thought we would have an opportunity to see. Israel, and of course all of the important sites, Jerusalem, the Old City, the City of David, the Temple Mount, the Jordan River, the Sea of Galilee, but also some of the megalithic sites and other historic archaeological digs, which have really become like a fire burning in our hearts to continue what we're doing and share the joy and the excitement that we find in the Word of God. I mean, our mutual friend Dr. Scott Stripling, who found that lead curse tablet through with your assistance in the dump pile from Joshua's altar, but has also found some very exciting things at the site of ancient Shiloh. He thought it was hilarious. So I took a selfie, which I never do. I hate taking selfies, but took one in front of the archaeological finds tent at Shiloh, just because, it's like a fanboy moment for me. I think we're going to see Scott next weekend at the International Symposium on Archaeology and the Bible in Albuquerque, New Mexico. We saw him there last year where he talked a bit about 2 years ago, where he talked a bit about the curse tablet. Of course, that information was embargoed until the peer-reviewed journal article was published. But archaeology is doing a lot to confirm the narrative in the Bible. Another story just out this week in the Israeli newspapers about the opening of the Pool of Siloam, which dates back to the days of King Hezekiah. Our friend Dr. Mike Freakman, who was gracious enough to spend a day with us answering our questions at Gilgal Rephaim when we were there back in March, working at Kharbet Kayefa, which appears to have been a frontier outpost of the Kingdom of David, and is even getting some secular skeptical archaeologists to agree, yeah, okay, there does appear to have been a kingdom in Judah in the early Iron Age, which they weren't willing to admit previously. How excited are you? What are some of the most exciting finds, other than, say, the curse tablet, that you're aware of in Israel, and how is it helping to shape or reinforce or strengthen your faith?
I think that the discoveries are in two levels. It's discoveries that are, I would say, in the classic sense of the word, like finding a lead tablet or carbon dating, the olive seeds at Kiafa, and so on. But there's also another level of discovery, and that is, again, to take a step backward and look at all these small discoveries that were made in different places. Now, why is that important? And I think it's really the most important, because when you take a step back, you see the bigger picture, and so Kiafa is just one city out of two more cities, Beit Shemesh and Tel El-Nasba, that were dated to the time of King David and are built in the same way. Now, why is that important? It's important because this would not be a surprise for, I would say, someone who believes in the Bible, because, obviously King David was a king and he built cities all over the land of Israel. But our viewers need to understand that prior to 1993, King David didn't exist in the academic world. If you came in 1992 and spoke about King David as a historic figure, they would immediately say, there's no evidence that King David existed. He
was in the same category as King Arthur for
and then in 1993, they find this huge stele, a stone inscription at Tel Dan in the north that mentions the house of David. Okay, so the archaeology, the academia has a problem now, because King David did exist. So what's the next step? Well, he was this small chieftain. He was this Bedouin sheik in Jerusalem, and he only ruled Jerusalem and Hebron. And that's it. Not a united kingdom stretching from Beersheba in the south to Dan in the north. And then more archaeological excavations are being done, and you see these three cities that were built in the time of King David and were built in the same way, which means that there is a concentrated government that builds cities in many areas that are not part of Jerusalem or Hebron. So So again, the academic world it has a problem because there's clear archaeological proof of a central government that wasn't this Bedouin sheik in Jerusalem and Hebron. So this is really what I like. These developments are the ones that I really, really wait for, because I have, you know me, I have an agenda against the academic world and the way that they've been teaching the Bible and archaeology in the past, 4 or 5 decades. I was a victim of this extreme atheist view that the Bible is a fairy tale in my high school in Jerusalem. And there are millions of Jews and Christians that stopped believing in God and in the Bible because their professor told them that King David never existed, that Joshua and Moses never existed. So, people come to me and say, Aaron, we love your lectures about archaeology and Joshua's altar. We don't need proof to believe in God and in the Bible. And I say, I fully agree with you. I would believe in God and in the Bible no matter what. But why do we need these discoveries? Why do we need these conclusions? We need them because, first of all, we have atheists like Adam Zertal who didn't believe in the historicity of the Bible and suddenly was transformed by his own discovery. And he started believing that the Bible is historical. So this is something we need for atheists. And it's also something we need for our own children.
Yes.
Because our children grow up in, these Christian or Jewish houses, believing in God, believing in the Bible. And then we send them off to colleges and they hear that nonsense from their professors who they fully admire and see as the objective truth. And guess what happens? They come back home and they're changed. They're not believers anymore.
Right.
This is one of the biggest problems that we have today in the Western world. So we need to have these facts on the table for our children, for them to confront those professors. They need to be equipped with that information. And that's why I love organizing tours to Israel, because when you're reading the Bible in America or anywhere in the world, it's in black and white. But when you come to Israel, the Bible becomes three-dimensional. The Bible is in color, and you see the real picture. So, and you can, I'm sure you can attest to it yourself.
Yeah.
You see the transformation of people in your groups that are coming to Israel and how they come back to the United States with all that amazing information that they have to share with their children, with their neighbors. We have an upcoming tour this spring, and we'd love to see people join that movement of truth.
Absolutely. Information online, by the way, at gilbertsinisrael.com. Gilbertsinisrael.com takes you right to the Lipkin Tours website, specific for our tour in 2024. We've already got dates for the 2025 tour, and we're looking forward to continuing this as long as we are able and as long as it's beneficial to you and Lipkin Tours. I see, by the way, on your Facebook page that you're taking tours now to the site of Joshua's altar for people who may have the means to travel here very soon. Give us details. When are you going, and how do people sign up?
So people should definitely contact us at our website, lipkintours.com. We usually have groups going up to the altar every month, sometimes every week. And so people can contact us at info@lipkintours.com and get more information. I specifically advertised a tour that I will be leading to Joshua's altar during the Feast of Tabernacles,
yes,
or Sukkot on October 3rd. I believe it's a Tuesday. So if you happen to be in Israel and you want to join us, definitely contact us through our website, and we'll be happy to see you, and I'll be happy to take you to what I think is the most important archaeological discovery that was ever made.
Aaron Lipkin, the CEO of Lipkin Tours, lipkintours.com. And Aaron, we are looking forward to seeing you again soon in the Holy Land. And when you come back next year to the United States, God willing, let us know your itinerary, and we'll help let people in the United States know so that the information that you are helping to uncover in the Holy Land can be brought to a wider audience here in the United States.
I will do that, and we're looking forward to seeing you and Sharon here in the land. We're going to have an amazing tour again.
Oh, yes. A special guest, Timothy Alberino, modern-day Indiana Jones, but he's never seen Israel, and he's never seen the megalithic sites that we're going to visit. So, yes, this is going to be one for the books.
Perfect.
In the notes below this video or audio, if you're listening to this program somewhere, you will find a link to the website alterofjoshua.com. That takes you to the information that Aaron has been collecting about the site, and also about his campaign to really advocate for the site of Joshua's altar. It needs to be protected. And frankly, I was shocked to learn that the site could have been under complete Israeli control had it not been for a secular Israeli archaeologist working for the army who pressured the government to give that site to Palestinian control during the negotiations over the Oslo Accords. Absolutely astonishing. Well, information about our tour of Israel so you can see this site. Tell you how you can do that in just a moment. Also, a school library decides that the way to be inclusive is to get rid of half of its books. Yeah, it's liberal. This is liberal thought in the 21st century today. Might be in the 23rd if we're still here that long. Getting rid of books, modern day book burnings. Bless their pointy little heads. That's straight ahead on A View from the Bunker. Everyone learns differently, and that's why we write fiction.
It is. I find that some people love to read nonfiction, but there's something about fiction that psychologists say breaks that fourth wall. You no longer doubt what you're reading. You get so engrossed in the story that you learn. You can learn propaganda, or you can learn God's truth.
Absolutely. So, yes, we write nonfiction books, but we are also using the gift of storytelling to try to teach spiritual warfare and spiritual truths. And during the months of August and September, we're offering all 10 of our novels at 20% off.
All 10 at 20% off? That's crazy.
That's right.
That is really, really a good deal. And now's the time if you want to buy gifts for birthdays or Christmas or whatever gift-giving season it is. It could even be Mother's Day next year. This is the time to save 20% on all of our fiction. And Derek's fiction is really, really good if you've never read it.
And Sharon's Red Wing Saga, 8 novels so far. She's hard at work on number 9. If you want to get engrossed in characters who are really grappling with the supernatural and trying to make sense of that world while teaching the divine counsel concepts that we try to communicate here, get involved in the Red Wing Saga. Again, all 8 of those novels, plus my 2 novels, The God Conspiracy and Iron Dragons, 20% off now only at our online store. That's gilberthouse.org/store. Talking the walk every Sunday night from the beautiful Missouri Ozarks. This is A View from the Bunker. I'm Derek Gilbert. You'll find us online at VFTB.net. You'll also find our main website for all that Sharon and I do at gilberthouse.org, gilberthouse.org. That's where we post our weekly Bible study, the Gilbert House Fellowship. Not this weekend, however. As you're watching or listening to this, we are just returned from fittingly, the International Symposium on Archaeology and the Bible. And we will be talking about that in the weeks ahead. What we can share, that is, because much of the information from that gathering is embargoed until the peer-reviewed journal articles are published. So anyway, we look forward to sharing what we've learned with you in the months ahead. On social media, you'll find us at View from Bunker. My personal X feed is at Derek Gilbert. Threads at Derek Gilbert. I'm just sort of squatting on that so nobody takes my name and puts it up there. Also, Truth Social, Gab Me We Get Her at Derek P. Gilbert. News from Canada, the People's Republic of Canada, where here in the United States, we think that progressive thought, and anytime you hear me use that word progressive, please assume that I've got air quotes around it, because really what passes for progressive thought these days is actually regressive. Seriously. I mean, we're talking regressive like back prior to the days of Moses when he came down from the mountain with the law. Anyway, another example coming from Mississauga, Ontario, where a school library there has decided to be more inclusive by excluding any book published prior to 2008. Seriously. Any book published before 2008 was weeded out of the library as part of its school board policy, a new school board policy to ensure that books are equitable and inclusive. So when students at Arundel Secondary School arrived for the new school year, they were shocked to find that shelves in the library were half empty. I mean, seriously, because as many as half of the books are gone. When you include anything published prior to 2008, that would include the Harry Potter books, the Hunger Games, very popular children's books from years back, like the Hungry Caterpillar, things like that. All of the Richard Scarry books. Not that secondary school students would be reading those, but anything published more than 15 years ago, reportedly pulled out of the school. This is what passes for progressive thought in Ontario, apparently. The education minister said that, this is a new directive to ensure that library books are inclusive, but as, of course, this story has spread and people begin to react, it's like, wait a minute, we thought that, Bible-thumping fundamentalists are the ones who burn books, not liberals and progressives. The education minister for Ontario is now saying, okay, it is offensive, illogical, and counterintuitive to remove books from years past that educate students on Canada's history, anti-Semitism, or celebrated literary classics, end quote. In other words, he put his finger up and found which way the wind was blowing, and he is now going in that direction. So he's ordered that the school districts there stop the book removal process at once. But again, it's astonishing that it got this far, that nobody in this chain of command between the education minister for the province and the school district said, wait a minute, we're why? Strictly based on date, we're eliminating everything prior to 2008. Why did anybody think at any point that this was a good idea? I think that was really the point. Let's sever the generation growing up from all history so they can be shaped and molded exactly the way progressives want them to go. Well, it seems that this has now been paused and put on hold, but we'll see. Because Canada has a history of banning books that are not inclusive. And you got to use a lot of air quotes when you talk about progressive policies, government education, or what have you. School boards in Ontario have been removing books for years deemed to have negative stereotypes. For example, Tintin, the famous Belgian book series Tintin, or the Asterix graphic novels from France about the ancient Celts. I guess being a progressive means you never can laugh. To the education, I was going to use a word that probably would have gotten the video pulled. The education minister and your colleagues in Ontario, bless your pointy little heads. We're going to be I am going to be in North Dakota in just over a month Friday and Saturday, October 27th and 28th, actually almost exactly 1 month from today. This is the Pitchfork and Hoe gathering at the Valley City Eagles Club in Valley City, North Dakota. This is a gathering of small farmers get together to discuss best practices. And I thought I had brought the second week in a row. I thought I'd brought it in here. You know what? It was in here last week, and I moved it into the other room, so now it's not here. Anyway, there will be a number of demonstrations and workshops, live music, and then on Friday night, October 27th, I'll be talking about giants in the Bible. The 28th, we'll be talking about demons, devils, and dragons. Also, entities in the Bible that God calls by those names, and you are welcome to join us. You can find out more at our website, gilberthouse.org. There's a calendar there. You can also go to our app, go to the calendar section inside the Gilbert House app, and go to the events tab that will lead you to that location. It's got a map that shows you exactly where the Eagles Club is in Valley City, or you can go to the website, or the page rather, for the Pitchfork and Hoe gathering at Facebook. You'll find all of the information about the gathering there. Now, Israel. We are going back next spring, God willing, March 31st through April 9th. The scheduled dates, and our special guest is Timothy Alberino, modern-day Indiana Jones, joining us on the ground in Israel. This is his first time there, so if you've been there before, how about that? You get to show an explorer all the cool stuff on the ground in Israel. We're looking forward to sharing some of these megalithic sites with him and with you if you've never been there before, as well as all of the biblically significant sites like the Sea of Galilee, Jesus' hometown of Nazareth, his base of ministry at Capernaum, of course, Jerusalem, including the Temple Mount. That is on the calendar. We'll also go to other historically significant sites like, Joshua's altar, Shiloh, the site of Masada, where the Jewish rebellion extension to Jordan. While you're there, come to Jordan with us. Go to Petra. We'll explain why it is supernaturally, prophetically significant. We'll see what Moses saw from Mount Nebo and much more. It's very exciting. We are delighted to have been able to go 3 times. I am furiously working to edit our tour video from this year to add to our 2 previous tour videos, which are available, by the way, at our streaming video site, gilberthouse.org/video. If you want more information and to reserve your place on our 2024 tour of Israel, go to gilbertsinisrael.com. That's gilbertsinisrael.com. We appreciate you taking time out of your schedule to watch or listen wherever that may be. If you're on YouTube, God bless you. Please then take a moment and download our app and make that your backup if you enjoy using YouTube. But if you get a spare moment, leave us a review at Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music, Spotify, Spreaker, Stitcher, wherever fine podcasts are sold. Our announcer is the inimitable D.C. Good. And A View from the Bunker is a production of Gilbert House Ministries, released under Creative Commons Attribution, Non-Commercial, No Derivatives 4.0 International License. We do this because we wrestle not against flesh and blood. I'm Derek Gilbert, and this is A View from the Bunker.